Welcome to today's special on bow tuning for fixed broadheads. Now, I'm sure I don't have the answer to every question, and some people may not like my concepts or where I go or brands or something like that. The show, I think, is going to be worth every bit you paid for it, which of course is nothing last to look. So I think it's going to be useful to you. It's probably going to help some of you as you work through and try to figure out what in the world's wrong when everything seems to be right, yet it's still a little bit squirrely. There's so many different variables, and the first rule in archery is there's no one right answer. There's no one right absolute, because so many different things are right up to a point, in which case then something else becomes the dominant feature of what you're dealing with. Right now outside we have some high winds, some swirly winds. We live in a hollow, so that's in low spot in between two ridges, and we've got a hurricane going up the east coast right now. We're catching the tail end of that. So I don't know if I'll be able to, due to run time or whatever, to kind of really show you what I kind of call, the proof shot. But I do have some it's kind of crude because I just shot it from some of my hunting buddies down in Georgia that have the Houston County Hunt Club. But I can show you a little bit of that video showing you it actually works pretty good if we do kind of what I show here. Because, well, I tell you what, LeDuc, go ahead and run that beautiful bow footage, will you? What do you mean? Oh, apparently I don't have an imaginary talking dog to run my bow footage for you. But what's that? Could have been a Cajun. Don't have a Cajun here either, so I guess we'll just have to have done this in editing. So as we see with the screen behind us, we've got the video going. And as I walk up, kind of up toward the end, this is a 35-yard shot, I think. Maybe it's the 40. If it's back at the cedar trees, we're at the 40. And we've simply tuned it up. In this case, what I've done is I've changed the cable, the strings after 5 years, done a little work on the arrow rest, and changed my little setup yet again, and we'll kind of talk about that as we're done. 25, 30, 35, I'm back at 40. And here's the broadhead. And I don't know if that's low or me or whatever, but anyway, you don't see it left or right or going wild. And I'm going to call that good enough for government work. Now I've put the bow around front and I put it in a vise. Now this vise works pretty well. The downside of this is it's pretty good for holding, but it's very difficult when you do the 3 level thing. It's 3 axes. You got a level on the back that holds to the string, and you've got to find a spot that's actually that it clips to, and then the arrow, this clamps the arrow. It fits real well. And then of course looking down the bow to tilt it, in or out, that type of thing. And you've got another axis here, but that's how you pretty much square using the levels, and that'll give you a good setup. I'm gonna go ahead and take these off. This is just one brand, one gizmo set that you can use. Now, I think when I observe, if I shoot target points, and they look like they're going straight, but as I shoot the broadhead, they're either going like, and I'm talking consistently, left or consistently right from where the field points go, or up or down. Now if they're kind of all over, if broadheads are all over the place and my field points are tight, I think that's a different issue we'll do when we go to arrows. But I think if we're consistently left or consistently right, what I believe it is that I've got steerage in the back with the arrow and nothing in the front. But I think my spine is sufficiently straight, and I think my broadhead is kind of steering it a little bit more in the direction that I'm going. So I think in reality, I think my rest is probably out a little bit to the left if I'm shooting a little left, or down, or up, or wherever I'm going, right or left, where I'm consistently placing. I'm thinking the broadheads are probably driving a little truer because they're driving as well. And when we get into arrows, we'll go to something else. Now, this little gadget is fairly simple, and the center gauge, it's got a patent number on it. People have asked me, where do you get that? I don't see them in the store anymore. I guess they've quit selling them. But the concept on this was you could find a flat spot on the riser, and when I lay it, like this, I come down and it looks like the center of the rod is right at the center of my arrow, and I come back in and right at the center of the string. So in my bow that's tuned up, it tells me I'm in the right spot. But if you can't have one of these, there are other ways you can do it. If you reload, you can take a set of calipers. Now, calipers can work in a couple of different ways. Now, I may reposition the camera to get a good shot of this. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and do that? Now, using standard kind of dial calipers like this, we can come in here, and what I can try to do is go in here using a little roller dude, try to put this up against the arrow, and just run that back until I'm just touching the riser and the arrow. And I come down on this side and do exactly the same thing. And I come in to see if I get a good reading, good solid reading. Okay? So you can do that. Now, it's a little bit difficult because your arrow's always wanting to move a little bit. But I got that as close as I can get it. And I believe it's right. The little guy here, a little close up for the camera for this, but he told me it was right. My calipers told me it's right. Now there's a little something else we can do because this wants to move on us a little bit. In the process of setting up, and I have to give a little bit of credit for, I would say, tolerance. We get a lot of tolerance with these drop down rests because the rests, they fall out of the way, and this little twist and toke and all this kind of stuff that we get, and even that angle as we drive through and that string comes back on that last little bit, really makes a difference, I think. So I'm going to put my rest back up in position. I'm going to put this guy in here. Now, the way this is made, it actually has a little notch, and that little notch this thing fits into, so it drops down. It's still square with my string, square with here, but what I'm going to use it for is to try to gauge between this flat surface here, and the flat surface on the other side. So you can kind of come back here and try to measure this way. And what you do, you make your measurement, come back on the other side, make your other measurement. And you see how that is? Again, you'd watch for the same thing. You don't want to spring it one way or the other. But a good square like this may be a little bit more stable and easy for you to measure when you're measuring between the tines, say here on this part of the caliper, rather than doing an end measurement here to here. Again, that's another choice. Now, I'm going to take this off. Another option you have, you can make yourself a gauge like I have. Let me put my little arrow back, because again, I believe that a lot of that consistent diving this way, that way, is because the rest is out this way, that way. And again, up and down is because either the rest is high or low, or because we've got a little knocking position back here. But when we remember we're using a drop away rest, we just don't have near that up and down problem that you have if you have a fixed rest. That's one reason why I use it. Now, where's my little thing? This little guy, a little wedge. This is a little gauge, and I'm able slide it back, find a flat spot here, and I maybe go down that end, flat right back in there, and I can tell if it's running in or out because I can feel it wanting to push my gauge down. And it's just a real simple little tool I made. It's a gauge. Now that ought to fix your rest. Now let's move on to something a little bit more challenging. Let's talk about the arrows.